Hello friends and welcome to today's video. I'm Jeanette with Vivo Vintage Designs. In today's video, which will be more of a process video than a tutorial, I'm going to show you how I painted these lemons using watercolor. The colors I'm using are from Core and the brushes are Silver Black Velvet, and the paper that I'm using for this painting is one that I've never used before. It's Arches rough textured paper. I usually paint on cold press, and recently I've been painting on hot press paper, which allows you great detail. But this one, because it's very textured, doesn't allow, well, at least I could not achieve the details that I normally do using cold pressed or hot pressed. But I bought this paper a while ago, and anytime I see watercolor paper on sale, I buy it. And I thought I'd try this, but I never did. So I thought I would use it for this painting. And in this painting, I'm using the wet and wet technique, which is one of my favorite techniques for watercolor. And you saw how I traced down the image in the beginning of the video. I found an image that I liked and I scribbled with pencil on the back of the image, then taped it to my watercolor paper, and then I traced it. Once I traced it, I defined the lines better with a mechanical pencil so that I can see them clearly. Usually when you trace, the lines are a little bit fuzzy, and I like mine to be a little bit more clear. Once I had them down, I used a kneadable eraser to lighten them so that you would not be able to see the pencil lines through the lemons. And using a kneadable eraser is very gentle on the paper. If you scrub with an eraser, you can damage the texture of the paper, which means that your paint will not apply the same in that area as it does to the rest of the paper. So again, I'm using the wet and wet technique. So you saw I wet down the area that I am going to paint, and then I added a very diluted layer of yellow. And that orangey color, unfortunately, I don't recall the colors that I used. So if you find an image that you want to paint, use whatever colors you have in your palette that best match your reference photo. But I dropped in the yellow while the paper was still wet. And then I also dotted in that orangey color to add that lemon texture to the lemons and also to create a little bit of shadow. And although you can't see it on the top of my palette, I have two other shades of yellow which I used for the lemons. And you can see here that I wet down this leaf and I'm dropping in my colors, the yellows, and I have a couple of greens as well. And because the paper is wet, the colors blend together very nicely and give you these beautiful soft edges. And I'm trying to add a little bit of the detail for the veining. But again, because of this, the texture of this paper, I wasn't able to achieve the texture that I normally add to my paintings. So I think that I would use this paper for more loose paintings. And I can't wait to try something different on it next time. Now here I'm painting the stem. So I'm using a diluted yellow to fill in the stem, and then I'm using the darker green to create a shadow on the left hand side. And because it's still wet, it's blending in very nicely. And then I'm using the lighter green on the right hand side. And I'm adding in a little bit of detail in that knot in the stem, using the orangey color that I mixed with a little bit of green so I could make it more brownish. Now, of course, I've mentioned this in previous videos, when you're using the wet and wet technique, you never paint your next area next to an area that is still wet. Because what happens is if you should accidentally touch that other wet area, your colors will start to bleed one into the other. So that's why you'll see me skipping around this painting And this is my first layer, so it appears very light, but I'll be adding multiple layers. And also I think I should tell you that in true Jeanette form, I painted this over, I would say maybe, it took me about 5 hours to paint this, because I walk away constantly and I come back and I look at it with fresh eyes and I see things that I didn't see while I was sitting there for the hour before. So I ran out of space on my SD card. So there's a portion of this painting that I was unable to capture. But at the end, I'll post a picture of the finished painting. But I think I did catch most of it. I've bought some new equipment and I'm still learning how to use it. And I'm not the most techie person. So this doesn't come easy to me. But I'm getting there. So here I'm painting this fold in this particular leaf, and you can see I've added a little bit of yellow mixed with some green, and now I'm adding a darker green on the side where there would be a shadow, and you can see how beautifully those colors are blending together. Now you'll see the part where I did not add enough water to this leaf, and it started to dry very quickly, and I didn't have enough time to add my colors, and because it was drying, the colors stopped blending together. That will happen when the paper gets too dry, and you'll see that happen in just a moment. So I'm adding in the yellow, and that's working out well. It's blending nicely. And now I start to add the green, but as I move down this leaf, the bottom of the leaf had started drying, and you can see now that I'm adding that green and it's not blending. I'm getting kind of hard lines. But I was fortunate that I was able to just use a clean, damp brush to go over those lines and soften them a little bit without creating any blooms on the paper. So here you see me softening up those lines a little bit. And you can see here that I have a lot of shadows on the paper. I kept forgetting that if I turn the overhead lights on and my studio lights, I get a lot of cast shadows on my work area, so I do apologize for that. When I turn off the overhead lights, the ones in the ceiling, and I just use my studio lights, I don't get these types of shadows. But I get so caught up in the painting that I forgot. So here I've added a second layer, and you can see my colors are getting a little bit deeper. And I'm using the same technique, the wet and wet technique. And now you can see in this part of the video that I've added multiple layers, so my leaves are a lot darker. And I'm trying to add a little bit of detail using a small brush. And that leaf is damp, so as I'm adding these lines, they're blending in softly and giving me some nice soft edges. Well, we are getting near the end of this video. I want to thank you so very much for watching. Check out the description box for links to the products used, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It's a very nice way to show your support, and it lets YouTube know that you're enjoying my content and makes my video available to others as well. All right, everyone. Again, thank you so very much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.